Just let it go. She's your sister, my mom said after she stole from me. I pressed charges anyway. 2 days later, she showed up crying and begging me to drop the case. I stood at my front door, staring at the security camera footage on my phone. My sister, Melissa, was outside, crying. I didn't let her in. Not yet. 2 days ago, I filed charges against her for theft. Not for something petty, not for something I could just let go, like my mother wanted. No, this time was different. This time, she stole something that actually mattered, something she had no right to take. I had spent my whole life watching Melissa get away with everything. She was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. She lied, manipulated, and stole her way through life, always finding someone to clean up her mess. And our mother? She always defended her. Always made excuses. She's family, my mom would say, no matter what Melissa did. But this time, I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I pressed play on the footage, watching as my sister paced in front of my door, wiping at her tears. She looked disheveled, her hair a mess, her clothes wrinkled. She looked desperate. Good. I finally opened the door, leaning against the frame. What do you want, Melissa? She gasped as if she hadn't expected me to actually answer. James, please, she sobbed. You can't do this. You can't let them take me to jail. I wasn't thinking. I scoffed. Oh, you were thinking. You just didn't think you'd get caught. Her lip trembled, and for a second, I saw the gears turning in her head, trying to find the right angle to play. But I wasn't falling for it this time. Not after everything. This time, she was going to face the consequences. And I was going to make sure everyone saw who she really was. Melissa took a shaky breath, her hands clasped together like she was about to start praying. James, please. You're my brother. We've always looked out for each other. I laughed. A sharp, bitter sound. Is that what you think? That I've always looked out for you? I shook my head. No, Melissa. I've always cleaned up after you. There's a difference. Her eyes darted to the side, like she was searching for another way out. She always did this, talked her way out of trouble, made people feel sorry for her. But not this time. I swear I wasn't trying to hurt you, she continued. I was desperate, James. You don't understand how hard things have been for me lately. I cut her off. Oh, I understand just fine. You've been spending money like it's never going to run out. New clothes, new furniture, weekend trips to God knows where. You live like nothing ever touches you. And when the money ran out, I gestured toward myself. You stole from me. Again. She flinched at that word. Stole. Because that's what it was. James, I was going to pay you back, she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. I scoffed. With what? More lies? More excuses? She bit her lip. I could see the wheels turning in her head. She was looking for an opening, a weakness. But she wouldn't find one. Not this time. Behind her, the street was quiet. No one was around to witness this little performance she was putting on. And that's what it was, a performance. Mom said you'd do this, she finally said, trying a new angle. She said you'd overreact, that you'd try to ruin my life over one little mistake. I clenched my jaw. Of course, Mom defended her. What exactly did you tell her? I asked. Melissa wiped at her eyes, hesitating. Just that. I borrowed something from you, and you freaked out. That you wouldn't listen to reason. I nodded slowly, already expecting that. Right. So you didn't tell her that you stole from me, then lied about it, then tried to cover your tracks before I found out? Her face paled. You didn't tell her that I have proof? I continued. Her breath hitched. I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone, scrolling until I found what I was looking for. Then I turned the screen toward her. Her own messages. Her own words. Evidence. I saw the moment it hit her, the exact second she realized she wasn't going to talk her way out of this. I had her. And she knew it. Melissa stared at the screen, her face draining of color. Her own messages, clear as day, conversations where she bragged about handling her money problems, about how James will never notice, until it was too late. She looked up at me, lips parting slightly as if she wanted to deny it, to spin another story. But for once in her life, she had nothing. You. She swallowed hard. You saved our texts? I shrugged. I save everything, Melissa. I learned a long time ago that trusting you is a mistake. Her hands trembled as she reached toward me, as if she could physically take the evidence away. James, please. You don't have to do this. This is family. We're family. Yeah? I tilted my head. Since when has that ever stopped you from screwing me over? She had no answer for that. I let the silence stretch between us, let her feel the weight of it. Then I pressed play on another recording, a voicemail she left for a friend, laughing about how she took my money. He'll never do anything. He's too much of a coward to stand up to me. Melissa's breath hitched. I raised an eyebrow. Go on, tell me how I'm overreacting. Tears welled in her eyes, but I didn't feel a shred of sympathy. Not after everything she'd done. I was just... Her voice cracked, and suddenly, her whole demeanor shifted. Her shoulders slumped, and she let out a loud, dramatic sob, covering her face with her hands. I didn't mean it. I was just scared, James. I was drowning in debt, I had no options. I cut her off with a single, sharp laugh. Melissa, come on. I know exactly how this works. She peeked at me through her fingers. You fake tears, you play the victim, and you expect everyone to feel sorry for you. I gestured toward the street. But there's no one here to watch your performance this time. She sniffled, dropping her hands, her face twisting in frustration. You don't get it, she whispered. Mom does. That's why she told me to come here and fix this before it's too late. I stiffened at that. Mom told her to come? Melissa must have seen the shift in my expression, because she pounced on it. She said you need to let this go. That pressing charges will only make things worse. She's begging you, James. She's scared for me. I stared at her. Not scared for me. Not ashamed of what Melissa did. Just scared that, for once, Melissa might actually face consequences. I let out a slow breath, shaking my head. You still don't get it, do you? Melissa's brows furrowed. I don't just want the legal system to deal with you, I said, slipping my phone back into my pocket. I want everyone to see you for who you really are. Her whole body tensed. What do you mean? I took a step closer, lowering my voice. I mean your friends, your boss, your boyfriend, every single person in your life who still believes your lies. She sucked in a breath. You ruined my life for years, Melissa, I said, my voice cold. Now it's your turn. Her eyes widened in horror. I wasn't backing down. Not this time. Melissa's breath came in short, panicked bursts. James, you don't mean that. I folded my arms. Try me. She shook her head violently, fresh tears spilling over. You can't do this. My job, my friends, they'll all turn against me. Yeah, I said evenly. That's the point. Her hands clenched into fists. Mom won't let you. I let out a humorless chuckle. Mom has no say in this. She looked truly desperate now, her mind racing for a way out. James, please, she whispered. I'll do anything. I stared at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, I reached for my phone. Then start by watching your world fall apart. Her face crumpled as I tapped the screen. Send. Melissa's phone buzzed almost immediately. She fumbled for it, her hands shaking so badly she nearly dropped it. When she finally managed to unlock the screen, I saw the exact moment it hit her. Her face went pale. No! She breathed, scrolling frantically. No, no, no! I crossed my arms, watching as she absorbed the damage. The messages were already coming in, confused texts, missed calls. Her carefully curated world, the one she'd built on lies and manipulation, was starting to crack. You sent it to everyone? She whispered, barely able to get the words out. I nodded. Your friends. Your boss. Even your precious boyfriend. Melissa swayed on her feet like I had physically struck her. You! She looked up at me, her expression raw with betrayal. You just ruined my life! I arched an eyebrow. No, Melissa. You ruined your life. I just made sure everyone saw it. She let out a choked sob, gripping the doorframe like she might collapse. Please! I can fix this, I swear! Just help me! I shook my head. No more helping. No more second chances. You did this to yourself. For the first time, the fight drained out of her. She sagged against the door, looking utterly lost. What am I supposed to do now? I met her gaze, unflinching. You figure it out. Just like I always had to. And with that, I shut the door in her face. I stood behind the closed door, listening. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then, a muffled sob. A shaky breath. Melissa wasn't used to this. She wasn't used to consequences. She had spent her whole life twisting the truth, playing the victim, always landing on her feet because someone, Mom, Dad, me, was always there to catch her. But not this time. I heard her shift, like she was still standing there, waiting for me to change my mind. I didn't. Instead, I pulled out my phone again, checking the messages rolling in. Her boss. Is this real? Her best friend Claire. Melissa, what the hell? Tell me this isn't true. Her boyfriend Jake. Call me. Now. Melissa had built her entire life on an illusion that she was sweet, trustworthy, a victim of bad luck. Now, that illusion was gone. Another sob. Then the sound of hurried footsteps retreating down my driveway. I exhaled, pressing my forehead against the door. I should have felt triumphant. Satisfied. I had done what I said I would. I had exposed her, made sure everyone saw the truth. So why did I feel so hollow? I shook it off and walked to the kitchen, needing something, anything, to distract me. As I poured myself a glass of water, my phone buzzed again. Mom. I let it ring, but she called again. And again. Finally, I sighed and answered. What, Mom? Her voice came sharp and furious. What did you do to your sister? I laughed dryly. Oh, you mean what she did to herself? James, this is too far, she snapped. She's in tears. Her job, her friends, everything is falling apart. Yeah, I said, swirling the water in my glass. Kind of like how she stole from me and didn't care until she got caught? She made a mistake. I gritted my teeth. She didn't make a mistake, Mom. A mistake is forgetting to pay someone back. A mistake is losing track of money. Melissa lied. She stole. And she laughed about it. Mom huffed in frustration. You're supposed to be the bigger person. I clenched the glass tighter. You mean I'm supposed to roll over and let her do it again? There was a pause, just long enough for me to know she had no real argument. James, she said, quieter now, trying a different approach. She's your sister. You two only have each other. I let out a breath, shaking my head. No, Mom. She has you. And I have me. She started to say something else, but I didn't want to hear it. I hung up. And this time, I didn't feel hollow. I felt free. The silence after I hung up was different. Lighter. For the first time in years, I wasn't carrying the weight of Melissa's mistakes on my shoulders. No guilt. No second guessing. I was done. I sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through my phone. The fallout was spreading fast. More messages flooded in, some from mutual friends, others from people I barely knew but who had somehow heard the story. Melissa had spent years crafting a version of herself that didn't exist. The supportive friend. The struggling, misunderstood girl who always got dealt a bad hand. But now people were seeing the truth. I got a text from Jake, her boyfriend. Jake. Dude, I had no idea she was like this. I'm done. I smirked. Of course he was. Melissa had spent so much time pretending to be someone she wasn't that she never considered what would happen when the mask came off. And now? She was alone. I didn't feel bad. Not even a little. Then, another text came through. Mom, I hope you're happy. You destroyed her life. I stared at it for a second before typing back. Me. No, Mom. She destroyed her own life. I just stopped protecting her from it. I hit send, then blocked her number. For the first time in my life, I chose myself. And I wasn't looking back. The next morning, I woke up to a quiet house. No buzzing phone. No knocks at the door. I stretched, rolling my shoulders as I got up. It was strange, this feeling of peace. Like I had been holding my breath for years and only now realized I could finally exhale. But I knew it wouldn't last. Sure enough, by noon, an unfamiliar number flashed on my screen. I almost ignored it, but curiosity got the better of me. James, a deep voice said the moment I answered. It took me a second to place it. Jake. Melissa's now ex-boyfriend. I leaned back against the counter. Didn't expect to hear from you. He sighed. Yeah, well, I figured I owed you a call. About what? Melissa, he said. She showed up at my place last night, sobbing, begging me to believe her. Said you set her up, that you twisted everything to make her look bad. I laughed under my breath. And you believe that? Not for a second, he admitted. I saw the messages. I saw how she lied to me, to you, to everyone. I could hear the exhaustion in his voice. Melissa had always been good at wearing people down. So, what did you do? I asked. I told her to leave, he said. But not before she admitted something interesting. I frowned. Which was? Jake hesitated, then said, Your mom knew about the theft before you did. A cold chill ran down my spine. What? Melissa told her weeks ago, Jake continued. She panicked when she realized she might get caught, so she went to your mom first. And your mom told her to stay quiet. That you'd never press charges if you found out. I gripped the counter, my knuckles turning white. Of course. It wasn't just about Melissa anymore. Mom knew. Mom knew and still had the nerve to call me cruel for holding Melissa accountable. I let out a slow breath, forcing the anger down. Thanks for telling me. Yeah, Jake said. And for what it's worth. I'm sorry. I didn't know she was like this. Join the club, I muttered. He let out a humorless chuckle. Take care of yourself, James. You too. I hung up, staring at the wall for a long moment. Then I did something I should have done years ago. I blocked both of them. Melissa. Mom. For good. And just like that, the last chain broke. Blocking them should have been the end of it. For the first time in my life, I wasn't at their beck and call. I wasn't the one scrambling to fix Melissa's messes or enduring Mom's guilt trips. I was free. But of course, freedom wasn't something they were willing to give me that easily. The next afternoon, I heard a knock at the door. I already knew who it was before I even checked the peephole. Mom. I debated ignoring it, letting her stand out there and stew in whatever self-righteous speech she had prepared. But then I thought about what Jake had told me. How she had known all along. No. I wasn't going to hide in my own home. I yanked the door open and leaned against the frame. What do you want, Mom? She looked haggard. Like she hadn't slept. But I didn't feel an ounce of sympathy. We need to talk, she said, her voice tight. No, you need to talk, I corrected. I need you to explain why you let Melissa steal from me and thought I wouldn't find out. She blinked rapidly, taken off guard. James, I folded my arms. No more excuses. No more she's your sister. Just tell me why. She let out a slow breath, gripping the strap of her purse like it was the only thing keeping her steady. Because I didn't want to lose her, she finally admitted. I frowned. What? She looked away, embarrassed. Melissa's not like you. She's fragile. If I didn't defend her, she'd have no one. I scoffed. So you threw me under the bus instead? You knew she stole from me, and you just let it happen? Mom flinched but didn't deny it. I thought you'd understand. I thought you'd forgive her. Yeah, I said bitterly. Because that's what I always did, right? She didn't answer. You know what's funny? I let out a humorless chuckle. I spent years thinking Melissa was the problem. But now I see it. It was you. You let her become this. You let her believe she could do whatever she wanted because you were always there to shield her from the consequences. Mom's face crumpled. James, please. I shook my head. No. I'm done, Mom. Done with both of you. I'm not your backup plan. I'm not your safety net. And I am not Melissa's keeper. Tears welled in her eyes, but I didn't care. Go home, I said. Melissa's your problem now. She opened her mouth like she wanted to argue, but she must have seen something in my face, a finality she couldn't change. Her shoulders slumped. And then, finally, she turned and walked away. I shut the door behind her, locking it. And this time, when the silence settled over the house, it felt permanent. Like peace. Like freedom. A week passed. A week without texts, without phone calls, without unexpected knocks at my door. A week of peace. At first, I kept waiting for something, some last-ditch effort from Mom or Melissa. A dramatic plea, a guilt-ridden message, some ridiculous excuse for why I should take them back. But it never came. And I realized something. They only fought for me when they thought they could control me. The second they realized they couldn't, they let me go. I wasn't devastated. If anything, I felt relieved. Lighter. Like I had finally stepped out of a shadow I had been trapped in for years. Then, out of the blue, I got a text. Aunt Laura, hey, just checking in. Haven't heard from you. Are you okay? I stared at the screen for a moment before replying. Me, yeah? I'm good. And for the first time in my life. I meant it.